Today also we have some heavy notes. Yeah, right. Types of exceptions. Take heading, types of exceptions. Don't write this everything, okay? Just write on these points. Types of exceptions. Guys, completed. When we throw an exception, if compiler forcing us to handle that exception, either by reporting or by catching, then that exception is called checked exception. If compiler not throwing any error when we don't handle, we call it as unchecked. Why this exception is called checked? Because it is checking by compiler and it's handling is checking by compiler. That's why it's named as checked exception. Why other exceptions are called unchecked exceptions? Because compiler is not checking, it's handling. That's why it's called unchecked exception. So when we can consider the exception as checked or unchecked? Okay, if the exception is representing a serious or huge data loss problems, or it is representing outside resources, .class files, database, network connections. In this situation, we must create exception as checked exception. Okay, when you find data loss will be there, but we can ignore, not accessing outside resources, only just based operator-based operations only we are doing, operator-based calculations we are doing. In this situation, you must create an exception as unchecked exception. It is just accepting only. Don't think seriously, okay? Okay, now try to answer. You are going to shop for buying 1 kg of rice. Okay, 1 kg of rice cost is 100 rupees, let's say. 100 rupees, 40 rupees, let's say, 40, 50 rupees, let's say. Okay, you have not properly counted notes. Only 30 rupees you have taken to the shop. Any problem? Actually, 50 rupees you have to take to the shop, but only 30 rupees you have taken to the shop. Any problem? Yeah, problem. But is it a serious problem? Not that much serious. Okay. In place of kg rice, we'll buy half kg rice. You can manage. Now, you wanted to buy ticket. You are traveling now. You went to railway station. Train ticket is 30 rupees, but you have 10 rupees only, not properly counted. Then is it a problem? Yes. Now tell me, before entering into train, you must check what is the price of the ticket, and you should make sure that much amount is there in your pocket before going to railway station. That means you are checking and then going. If you don't check and go, then you face problem. So tell me, that exception is what type of exception? Train ticket price problem exception. Ticket price problem exception is what type of exception? Checked exception. Okay. Buying thing exception. Buying thing exception must be what type of exception? Checked, unchecked exception. Did you get an idea? Tell me now. You know, main road, some work is going on. On main road, highway road, some work is going on. Now, that work going time, there should be a board must be added, right? Board must be added and should tell that divert. Okay, road diversion board must be added. If a road diversion board if not added, then what happened? People who are going on main highway road, they don't notice that there is a road damage is there. Accident will happen. Na? Tell me, road diversion exception must be checked or unchecked? Must be checked or unchecked? Checked exception. Okay. Now tell me, it's a normal road, okay? Normal people walking road. There are some up and downs are there. It's not main highway road. Vehicles traveling road is not there. It's just a normal road. Road damages are there, up and downs are there. Road damage exception. So tell me, should be road is not good. Board should be there or not required? Not required. Unchecked exception. Even if you fell down, no problem. Your life is not lost. Okay, you are not losing your life. You can get up and you can walk. On main road highway, if the board is not there, life loss. Are you catching my point? So hope you got clarity on checked and unchecked exception. If a serious problem there, huge data loss is there, then we should take it as checked exception. Tell me, now bank transaction failure exception should be checked or unchecked. You must handle checked exception or should not handle. Bank transaction failure exception must be checked exception because it must be handled everywhere to take proper decision. Am I right? If it is a unchecked exception, handling the exception is optional. Now programmer may forgot to handle, and finally what happened? Finally what happened? Data loss, money loss. Now you tell me, checked exceptions are best, unchecked exceptions are best. Checked exceptions are best, unchecked exceptions are best. Yeah, checked exceptions will guarantee handling exception, program termination normally. Unchecked exceptions will not guarantee catching exception, taking care of program termination normally. So from termination point of view, checked exceptions are best. But handling point of view, which exception best? Checked or unchecked? If you create unchecked exceptions, I no need to handle. Na? Yes or no? Listen carefully. Many faculties are telling that checked exceptions are bad design, unchecked exceptions are good design, so that we no need to handle. I don't know that statement is should accept or should not accept. I am in confusion. As per my opinion, all business operations performing methods should deal with checked exceptions only. Okay, should deal with checked exceptions only. That is what my opinion. If your faculty is telling, other faculties are telling unchecked exceptions are best, from what point of view he is telling unchecked exceptions are best, that you try to check with that person. Okay. Right. How compiler knows it is a checked exception or unchecked exception? Okay, my question is, how compiler knows it is a checked exception or unchecked exception? When we throw an exception, if compiler verifying it's a handle or not, then we call checked exception. Na? Then how compiler knows it is a checked exception or unchecked exception? Based on the type. Error, runtime exception, subclasses are unchecked exceptions. Remaining all exceptions are what? Checked exceptions. Okay, compiler will use implicitly instance of operator condition like this. When you write throw new arithmetic exception, compiler software implicitly take the class name, create the object, pass it to if condition with instance of operator. If this E object instance of error or E object instance of runtime exception, it is a unchecked. Not, if it is not instance of error, if it is not instance of runtime exception, then it is a checked exception. So it is a checked exception. Compiler verify whether this exception is handled or not. Okay, write down. Take question here. How compiler software knows? How compiler software knows an exception is a, how compiler software knows an exception is a checked exception or unchecked exception? Answer by using its type. Write down this diagram and these notes. Completed? Are you there? Completed? Shall we go next slide? Okay. If completed, let me know. Difference between error, exception, runtime exception, and checked exception. Please write on this last slide. All points completed, still writing. Subclasses of throwable checked exception. Only these two are specially considered by compiler software. Vivek. Akshay, congratulations. For your great success. You got job as a fresher or experience? With fresher, as a fresher or with experience? As fresher, excellent, marvelous. Which company? Can you share your success story? Can you talk to your friends? DXSF okay. Okay, okay. Okay, all the best. Do well in company. Take all challenges, whatever your team lead is giving, so that you will get great success. Okay. Okay. And now is the time we need to understand. Checked exception is a mandatory to handle. Na? Checked exception is mandatory to handle, right? So there are some rules while working with the checked exception. All people know first rule. When we throw or when we receive a checked exception, we must handle this checked exception either by reporting or by catching, else compiler will throw error. Unreported exception, exception class name must be caught or declared to be thrown. Write down these points, checked exception rules. All these points are not there in material, please write down. Only write first rule, don't write second rule. Only first rule. Completed? Look at the program. I am defining a method here, M1. Inside M1 method, I am throwing arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception is working on what? Operator, na? Operator based exceptions or unchecked exceptions. I'm throwing an exception and I have not reported. Any compile time error? No. Next, I am taking another method. Here I am throwing class not found exception. This exception is dealing with .class file. It's a outside resource, external resource. That external resource, if you wanted to handle, it should be a checked exception. It is a direct subclass of exception. If you don't handle, compiler throw error. But there are unreported exception, class not found exception must be caught or declared to be thrown. Then how to solve this compile time error? Either by catching or by reporting. Okay, na? Write on this program. These are compulsory asking written test questions. So requesting you all write carefully. Completed? Anvesh, what comment, Anvesh? I didn't understand what you are asking question. So tell me, we handle exception. Here we are catching exception. Here we are throwing exception. We are reporting exception. Okay. Now my question. If I call this M4 method in another method, should I handle this exception there also? For example, I'm taking M5 method. From M5 method, I'm calling M4 method. Here also I must handle. What the statement I given? When we throw or when we receive a checked exception. In a M3 method, in M4 method, I am throwing checked exception. So I should report. In M5 method, I'm not throwing, but I'm receiving via M4 method. So we must handle it. Otherwise, compiler throw error. So if I don't write any throws or try catch, compiler will throw error. But that unreported exception, class not found exception must be caught or declared with thrown. We are getting here, I commented. Okay. And then now you're getting line number, what you call 26. Unreported exception, class not found exception must be caught or declared with thrown by line number M4. Okay. Now, so when you call method also, when you receive exception also, you must handle. Then how? Either by catching or by what you call reporting. Right on this M5, M6, M7 methods. Receiving checked exception, we must handle. We didn't handle, so compiled time error. Catching the received exception, reporting the received exception. Completed. And now tell me. Now I'm writing main method. Inside main method, I call M7 method. M7 method is receiving checked exception from M4 and reporting. Then the reported exception should catch in main method also. Na? Tell me, in main method, if you don't write catch, if you write throws class not found exception, where this exception will go finally? To the person whoever calling. Exception propagation, remember na? When you throw an exception from that method, from there the exception is propagated until we catch. If you don't catch exception, it will go up to JVM. So in advanced Java, you might have seen many times after main method, your faculty might have written throws, class not found exception, comma, IO exception, comma, SQL exception, some exception they have written. That means we are informing to compiler, I don't catch these exceptions, these exceptions will be caught by JVM. So reporting again, here JVM will catch this exception and terminates program. Normally, abnormally. Abnormally. Main and message, can you see? No. Right on this main method. Now the next rule, very important rule. Tell me, when checked exception will come in the program, automatically by JVM or by programmer? Checked exception will come in the program only when we throw. If you don't throw exception, checked exception never come. For example, class not found exception you take, interrupted exception you take, IO exception you take, SQL exception you take, servlet exception you take. These exceptions are checked exceptions. Those exceptions are explicitly thrown by programmer. If programmer doesn't throw exception, they never rise by JVM. Understand? So what the point? Without throwing or receiving checked exception, when you are not throwing, exception will not come. Then why you are catching? We must not place catch block for checked exception. If you place, compiler will throw error. Exception is never thrown from the body of corresponding try statement, because without throwing it by programmer, a checked exception is never occurred at a execution time by JVM. For example, unchecked exceptions you take, unchecked exceptions may come by JVM. That's why compiler ignore. Okay, understand this point? Let me show you it. Observe now. Static, I taken a method, try block. Now in try block, I'm writing catch of arithmetic exception, catch of null pointer exception. I'm not throwing any exception, but I have written these two catch blocks. No problem. Program compiled successfully. Now I am placing here catch of class not found exception. Tell me, is it compiled or not compiled? Class not found exception is checked exception. Checked exception. Class not found exception is checked exception. Checked exception will, a checked exception we must handle. I mean, we must throw. We didn't throw it from here. Without throwing it never come. So compiler throwing error. Exception, class not found exception is never thrown in the body of corresponding try statement. Okay. Now interrupted exception I'm taking. It is a checked exception, but we didn't throw it. Now we'll get compile time error. It never thrown. So checked exception catch, without throwing checked exception from try block, you cannot add catch blocks. It is a waste of the time. That's throwing error. But now the question, error unchecked, runtime exception unchecked. Exception is a checked na? If it is a checked exception, without throwing it, I cannot catch na? But it is allowed to write. We are allowed to write catch of exception, catch of throwable, because it is a super class for both checked and unchecked exceptions. Compiler feels that from the try block, maybe unchecked exception may come, that will be catched by this exception and this throwable. Okay, so what the point now? But we can add catch of throwable even though they are not throwing from the try block, because are catching unchecked exception as a backup catch block. Okay, na? Next, tell me. Array, catch on checked exception, there are totally 8 rules are there. Among those 8 rules, this current rule means without throwing exception from the try block, we are allowed to place catch block. This rule is not applied now. That means fully all rules are applied, or some rules are not applied. Some rules are not applied. That's why it is called partially checked exceptions. Exception and throwable classes are called as partially checked exceptions because this catch block rule is not applied to these two exception classes. Okay, on throwable and exception, only this rule is not applied. Remaining 6 rules are applied. It means when you throw exception or throwable, we must handle them. Look at there, I am writing throw new exception, compiler throw in error. And next I'm writing new throwable, compiler throw in error. Without catching, you cannot throw. Hope you all understand. Write down. Rule number 2, write down. Completed? We cannot add catch of checked exception without throwing it from the try block, but we can add throws checked exception without throwing it from the body of the method. Okay, let me show you this point also. What can I do? If you look at this code, I am writing a method and I'm reporting this class not found exception without throwing. Is it allowed or not? Allowed. Tell me, without throwing, why catch not allowed? Because you are catching. It's waste, useless. When you write throws class not found exception, you are not only you are throwing, you are informing to whom? Subclass developer. You are informing to subclass developer, Ray, if you override this method in your program, in your class, please, you are allowed to throw only this exception. You cannot throw other than this exception. And also we're informing to user class programmer, if you call this M9 method, you must handle class not found exception. So why you are allowed to write throws class not found exception without throwing from main method? From the subclass and user class point of view. Okay, it is allowed because for informing to the subclass programmer about the exception that must be thrown from this method implementation logic. In above case, even though the reported checked exception is not throwing from this method, inside the calling method, we must handle this checked exception. Look at here, I have taken M10 method calling M9 method. Below, without handling, if you try, compiler throw error. Why? From this M9 method logic, you are not getting exception. But if this method executed from the subclass, this exception may come. That's why even though the exception not throwing from M9 method, by keeping subclass in the mind, okay, compiler has a created rule to handle that exception. So M9 method, I call M11 method, I have to handle. Okay, next M12 method, I should handle with the try catch. Okay, write down, continuation, write down. Up to here 40 line, 45 line, up to 45 line. Guys, completed? Shall I go for program? Yeah, write on this. When you completed, let me know. I'm waiting for you to inform me. If you sit silently, how do I know? Completed? Did you understand all points? Both rules. Did you understand both rules? Okay. Look at here. I'm giving a class called P, which contain M1 method. I'm writing class called Q, extend P. Same M1 method I have written here. Any problem? It's a overriding method. Na? Any problem? No problem. I hope you remember overriding rules. 4 rules are there. If method signature is same in subclass and superclass, subclass method is called overriding method, superclass method is called overridden method. Then subclass method return type must be same, execution level modifier static must be same. Subclass method return type should be same or covariant return, covariant or execution level modifier should be same. Accessibility modifier can be decreased, must be same or can be increased, but should not be decreased. And exception list. There I told you exception list, I will teach in exception link chapter. Is the time you need to understand. Look at here. In a class P, there is no throws exception. In a class R, while overriding this method, I have written throws arithmetic exception. Any objection to the compiler? Guess. Say yes or no. Any objection to the compiler? No objection, because compiler software doesn't worry about unchecked exception. Compiler doesn't check. Now I'm writing checked exception. Is it allowed or not allowed? If a superclass method not throwing checked exception, while overriding that method in subclass, we cannot throw checked exception. Compiler throw error. M1 in S cannot override M1 in P. Overridden method doesn't throw class not found exception. Okay, na? So if superclass doesn't throw checked exception, subclass cannot throw checked exception. Okay, even exception is also not allowed. Why? Because it is also checked exception. Right on that point. Rule on overriding method. Rule on overriding method. Completed? Huh? Madhav, what is not completed? These points not completed. Geeta? Are people there? You are very silent. What happened? Completed, huh? Write on this program. Here, compile time error. Here, compile time error. Yeah, guys. So requesting you all, please practice all these points, whatever I have explained up to now. If you remember these rules, checked exception rules, then only you can pass written test exam. Exceptionally written test exam, okay? So tomorrow we will continue remaining rules and we'll enter it into next topic. Checked exception, custom exception creation and project development. Okay? Thank you everyone. That's all for today class. See you tomorrow. Please practice and come. Without practice, you cannot understand tomorrow class. See you all tomorrow. Bye.